Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome back to Houselights, our director discussion show here on the Nerd Party Network. And gentlemen, it is episode 200. We've done all the films in existence, and we're done. We did it. We made it to 200. That's as far as I was willing to go. No, just kidding. We are not wrapping this up here on the Nerd Party Network. I am going to have a great conversation tonight with Tristan Riddell and John Mills as we talk about a handful of films, a nondescript number, as it were. Films that had meaning to us, shaped our views, either views on what we liked, views on how we lived. It's just a way for us to do what we love best, talking about movies without all those complications of who directed what and what year they did and when they got their blank check. So, yeah, you know, the rules we gave ourselves.
That we talk about a lot. Like which one is their blank check film? Yeah.
Oh, we can feel it. We're like, okay, this one made a butt ton of money, and then that doesn't feel like something they would have greenlit. The next one in the queue.
Yeah.
It happens. It happens.
So how are we going to do this, Darren? How are we going to go down? We're
going to round robin. We're going to go.
Yeah,
1,
this
2,
list
3,
is
1,
in
2,
no
3.
particular order. Like it's not like the first one we talk about is not the most impactful. It's just the first that we are going to talk about.
Very true. Yeah, that would be a gargantuan task to then order in descending of importance. But no, yeah, we're going to just, again, use this time to talk about film like we do every week. So,
and before we get started, I actually want to say, I want to thank all of our listeners for getting us this far, for listening to our show, for giving us ratings and sending us emails and tweets, Facebook messages, Instagram messages. It's been so fun doing this for 200 episodes and being involved with you guys and talking to our fans, talking to our listeners. And we want to hear from you too. I mean, you guys give us director suggestions all the time, but now we want to hear from you in a different way. Like, what are some movies that are impactful to you and why are they impactful? Like, you can do a 5 like we're going to do with some honorable mentions, or you can talk about 1 or 2, whatever. Send us an email, go to thenerdparty.com, select Houselights, and then contact, or actually thenerdparty.com/contact, and then select Houselights. That's how you do it. And then fill out the form and send us an email, or you can tweet us at Join Nerd Party, or you can Instagram us at the Nerd Party, or on Facebook at the Nerd Party, and we will love to hear from you.
Yes, we will. We will. All right. So, John, because apparently you have the longest list known to man, you could almost start your own blockbuster. Give us your first pick and tell us a little bit about it.
All right. So we're going in no particular order.
No order.
So since we're going to go in no particular order, I'm going to go for the least surprising one on my list. Okay. Which I think, drum roll, I think you all can figure out. But in 1977, a little film called Star Wars came out. And the thing is, my sort of like alternate, where I went back and forth on this one, was Return of the Jedi came out when I was old enough to really get what was going on with the movies. And so in a sense, like that's the one that really like sort of like solidified it for me. I went through all 3 in original releases, but Star Wars happened so early on in my life, and it's such a cultural thing. I mean, like I'm the old man of the group. Like Star Wars was it. That was it. Period. Full stop. There was no other like. It's like Star Wars. It was like that's the thing.
There was before, and there was after, and there was Star Wars.
Right. And so it's like, you know, as we were putting the list together, like there's so many favorites that fall into this sort of like action or heroic, serialized action sort of thing, whether it's Die Hard or Batman or any of a number of other action movies that I saw later in my life or anything like that, where the style of Star Wars, the quick edits, the way that things progress, the way the story is focused, I think loving Star Wars as much as I did preps me for loving all of those things later. And that's why I would actually count it as so influential, aside from like all the other stuff about like the emotional attachment and everything. It's like the style of Star Wars impacted everything I watched from like 3 to, 15. And it's like, it's obviously the most influential because I gravitate toward the things that remind me of the thing that I loved about this. So that's why Star Wars comes in. Least surprising possible choice, I know.
I'm shocked, John.
Right?
Yeah.
Pick yourself up off the floor.
Well, I'll go next because I also had Star Wars in my
what?
top. I know.
Really?
Shocker to all of you. And I've said this many times, I have to say just Star Wars because it was the first, because it built the world. I mean, you could argue and quibble over the greatness of Empire versus Jedi versus all of them, but I admire it the most for its world building. It was really one of the first science fiction. You're going to get a lot of science fiction from me. I know, shocker. But Star Wars was one of the first ones to do the lived-in grungy look. Before it, you had a lot of very clean cut, not exclusively. There were still, other films, but it told you so much, and by showing just tools and components and droids and everything in between, that you felt this was a lived-in world. You felt that, and I love the ease of which the used language. I've said also many times that often sci-fi trips up on giving really specific names for everything, and it kind of takes you out of it. You're like, oh, let's go get in the Z65, turboprop star speeder. It's like, I didn't need to know all that. I just. But Star Wars is like, get to the transport, grab the blaster. Like, they're using common terms and they just make it sound like this is just their world. This is just their life. It's fantastical in its way. So yeah, all that to say, droids, bringing in robots in a daily life. I think we all wished we had. And so we build them, some of us. But yeah, and also just for Lucas, for really this amazing movie that kicks off his blank check, aka the rest of his career, getting to really do whatever he wants. And not that everything after that is a hit or a miss, but no one else has had a career like that, where really their first big one out of the gate, and the timing and the positioning, just allowed him to make some incredible movies and really be on the cusp of beginning to be that era of known director where you're like, oh, so-and-so's directing that, I'm going to go see it. Like, that was becoming a thing, instead of just, oh, I'm going to go see the Warner Brothers picture, or even just a genre picture.
Well, I mean, to that point, it's not just that he directed it, because after Star Wars, he basically doesn't actively direct anything for decades. He gets so much cachet about what he pulls off and how he gets the best out of everybody at every level in Star Wars, that simply attaching, he becomes a brand. Yeah. From the mind of George Lucas, from producer George Lucas. The only reason Howard the Duck was made was because George Lucas was like, yeah, I'll put my name on it. I'll help my friend out here. And it's like, that is all because of what he pulls off here with Star Wars. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like he becomes a brand. And it's kind of crazy, because you're right. Like, of all of the filmmakers in the 70s, they all had a brand, but Lucas wasn't like a specific type of brand of
like directing style. Well, it was the imagination.
Yeah. But and additionally, it was just about like, it's the brand that everybody in the family loved. He became like Cheerios or something like that, where it's like,
Uncle George.
Even if it wasn't somebody's favorite, they were like, yeah, I like Cheerios, sure. Whereas like other stuff, it's like you bring in a Scorsese and it's like, I don't know if I like Brie, but if you like Brie, man, you love Brie, that sort of thing. So yeah, I agree with you, because Lucas with Star Wars also opened up, I think, so many opportunities for other people to continue, making great things because he threw his weight behind it to support them.
No, and not that they were all good after, but he also, Star Wars opened up the door of like, hey, sci-fi can make money. And so we saw a lot of sci-fi. Some of it didn't stick, but we saw some great pictures after that. Okay, most of it didn't stick. But yeah, so I think I'm going to put a cap on myself because I'm going to talk about Star Wars for another 10 minutes. And it is Tristan's turn to also say Star Wars. No, I'm just kidding.
If he doesn't, we're going to have words.
Well, okay, not to throw shade on you guys.
I'll throw shade on you.
I intentionally did not put in like my geeky picks, my geeky sci-fi picks. Because I feel like
we would.
No, it's not so much that I felt like you would. It felt a little too easy for me because those are very obvious choices for me, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying it towards you, but that's very obvious choices. Like right now, the audience can't see it, you guys can't see it, but there's a United Federation of Planets flag right above my desk, and it's right next to it is an original artwork of Dune. And to the left of me is some Star Wars collectible glasses. Like those three franchises, those three franchises are in my bones. Like my license plate is a Dune reference. The first movie I ever remember seeing was from my high chair, and it was the Star Trek The Motion Picture. Like my dad showed me the Star Wars films because it was a big deal. Like those are in my blood, and my soul, and my bones, everywhere. They permeate through me. But so because those are so huge, it would take too long to discuss. So like beyond those three franchises, which those three could define my tastes, I'm going to move on to, I do have one big franchise pick though in here. But the first one I want to talk about is David Fincher's Seven from 1995. So you guys know, and the listeners know, that I am a gigantic Fincher nerd. I literally celebrate his birthday with a baked good. It started off as a joke, and now we do it every year. And the reason why I choose this one is because it's not even my favorite Fincher film. Like I like Fight Club and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo more than Seven. But Seven, when I saw it, I was in awe. I was floored at how good it was and how enraptured I was by like the cinematography, the editing, the writing, the acting was all top notch. Like the pacing was perfect. Everything about it was just so on point. And John, you've heard me talk about this before, but the main reason why this is on my list is because the opening credits, the opening title sequence, I should say, scored to an alternate version of a Nine Inch Nails song, was so impactful to me. I saw it and I was like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do with my life. I want to be an editor. I want to make movies, and I want to become an editor. And, here I am 20 years into my profession. I'm now a creative director, but I was a video editor for over a decade. And it was a big part because of this movie, because there were so many great things about it. And so, I mean, like, I feel like Americans especially define themselves by their profession. And that's a big part of who I am, is like, I don't make movies, but I do make videos, and I have made movies. But today it's still, there's certain times, like I just got done making a sizzle reel for something, and I thought about that title sequence of Seven while I was making it. And also that title sequence itself kind of reinvigorated the interest in the opening title, in Hollywood, like in Hollywood movies. And so, yeah, that's why this one is the first one I want to talk about, is because my profession is a big part of who I am, and that helped me choose it.
No, and we purposely left the decision-making process vague for the three of us so that we could assign our own, level of weight. And although you can go listen to Houselights episode 3 if you want to hear like a whole hour talking about Seven.
For sure. And the thing is, I want to be very clear. Like when I was talking about Star Wars, it wasn't just because I'm a Star Wars nerd. Like it's literally, I can go back and watch Star Wars and be like, oh, that's why I like this other movie. So like, since it's Tastemaker, it's literally like, that's why I like that.
I love how I just gave this whole spiel about Seven, and how it's impacted my life and my profession. You're like, but let's talk about Star Wars again here. So,
okay, way to be dismissive. Appreciate that. No, I like, obviously, like Darren said, going all the way back to the third episode, and you know, if I wanted to bring it back to Star Wars in a petty way, I've been like, and you know where David Fincher got his start? Why, he was an effects cameraman on Return of the Jedi. So there, like, obviously, Seven shapes your life and, you know, what you decide you want to do. Yes, and that's fantastic. And I think that's amazing, right? Because I remember seeing Seven in the theater, and I didn't walk out saying I wanted to be a film editor. I just had an argument with my friend Joey about, like, it's okay if a movie ends as a downer, Joey. It's fine. It's okay. It doesn't make it a bad movie. And he's like, no, I don't like it when the bad guy gets away. And I'm like, Joey, how many times are we going to have this argument?
For those of you playing at home, the Joey drinking game, you can now take your drink, as he's been mentioned.
They'll be dead by the end of this episode. Trust me.
Yeah, I was wondering when Joey would make his first appearance in this episode. 17 minutes. Boom.
There you go. Well, it's a special celebratory episode. Joey usually gets like a mention every few episodes. I think we need to talk about him plenty here.
I mean, have no argument for me.
Yeah, but honestly, right? So Seven shapes what you want to go into and what you want to do with your career, which is a huge impact on your life. And what I would ask as a follow-up to that, though, is have you ever found yourself being more lenient with another director's works, or gravitating towards something because they mimicked what Fincher did with Seven? So like, maybe you go to a movie and there's like, you go with a group of friends, and the group of friends comes out and they're like, I didn't like that. What garbage. That was just boring and pretentious. And you're like, but you saw something similar to Seven. So you're like, I don't know, guys, it's okay. You know, like, did you ever encounter anything like that where Seven, you know, shaped your reaction to what somebody else did because they were following in Fincher's footsteps? Or have you ever seen anybody pull off what he pulled off with that sequence in Seven?
I don't think I've seen anybody pull off anything quite like Seven, except for a Fincher follow-up like Zodiac. I think there's definite similar vibes to it. You might be able to say that Denzel and Fallen had a kind of similar look to Seven, or even Nightcrawler. You could be argued like has a
I can
few
see that.
things here and there. Maybe even Villeneuve's Prisoners, I think, definitely could be up there in terms of look and feel. But I think I feel like Seven has influenced more television than film, because I feel like police procedurals were just like, oh yeah, we could totally look like that. Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think. But to answer your question, no, I haven't really. I haven't like given something a pass because it's looked like Seven and made me think about Seven.
Okay.
With you guys in Star Wars, has the antithesis of that happened, where you see something that's trying super hard to be Star Wars? Like, I don't know, maybe
I've
the
seen
motion
many
picture.
things trying to be Star Wars, and they're not Star Wars, and it's
that's sort of like an overload question, because so many things tried to copy it, where you're like, okay, that's okay. Independence Day, that didn't need to be just like the trench run. That's fine. You know, that sort of thing. But no, I mean, but what's so tough about that sort of question, right, is it's like you can only gather it in the rear view, because I really think, you know, editing is a very specific type of thing. I don't think anybody ever really tried to mimic Lucas's editing style consciously, or rather what he got from his editors consciously. I think it's more, you see more of a production, like an effects sort of thing, like what they're trying to evoke with imagination. And I think those are movies where it's like, they trade on the spectacle that was pulled off and the fooling the audience, and you realize they're trying to paper over shortcomings with everything, or their imagination doesn't actually match the capability of what they have, and vice versa. So that's where I think that would fall, at least from my perspective. Yeah.
All right. So John, going back around the Robin,
my goodness,
give us your second of 4 only films. Just kidding. You lost
yes.
one.
No, I deserve to lose one. I really do, because I brought it back to Star Wars. Shame on me. But the thing is, also from the 1970s, the following year, even though I didn't see it till many years later, I would be absolutely disingenuous if I did not mention John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978. I always make the joke that I exist somewhere, like movie-wise. But the thing is, I don't even realize when I'm a wee lad encountering Halloween on television for the first time that it's going to wind up shaping what I love about suspense, what I love about psycho killers, what I love about The Final Girl, the slasher film, all of those sorts of things, the template that it's setting up. And, we're talking about, have you ever forgiven a movie because it's in the vein of what you just talked about? Yes. Slasher movies. Any slasher movie that I didn't walk out of and say, that was pure garbage, is because Halloween occurs when I'm like 9 or 10 years old. And I can watch the Friday the 13th movies or the Nightmare on Elm Street movies or anything up to, until we get the torture porn era of the late 90s. And I can watch a horror movie and most people look at it and they're like, this is garbage. And I'm like, there were some good things about it, But Carpenter accidentally winds up setting me up for the long payoff. Being like Tristan, when we were talking about Leviathan, you're like, nothing happens for the first 3/4 of the movie. And it's like, yes, that's true. But if you go back to Halloween, while it's this exercise in suspense, not much happens for the first, if there are 6 reels in the movie, for the first 5 reels, it's all set up and then payoff at the end. But it's just set up so well. And then, Michael Myers is still my boogeyman. I can't help it. But I walk outside on Halloween. One of my neighbors every year wears a Michael Myers mask. And I can sit there and after I get over the initial shock of the boogeyman, I can look at it and be like, yeah, but that's the Halloween mask from Halloween 4, which isn't the authentic one, which is the repainted William Shatner mask from 1978 and 1981. So you can't really count that. I'm not actually afraid of that mask. And don't even get me started about Halloween 5's mask. And I can break it down all intellectually, but that first split second I see him, I'm scared out of my mind. And then I make the joke now that if you look at the guy chasing Michael Myers, Dr. Loomis, he's a bald guy with a goatee. And I'm like, well, that's another influence on my life.
So if you can't be Laurie, you're going to be the doctor. I see it.
It's a lot easier for me to pull off Loomis. That's all I'm going to say.
So. My wife and I didn't see Halloween until not that long ago, until I don't know, maybe 7 years ago, something like that. And it was funny because a friend of mine, is a gigantic Halloween fan. And we're like, okay, we'll watch it. And, we kind of were riff tracking it and, just, joking about it and making fun of it and pseudo watching it. No,
don't go back in the house. Oh, she
she went back in the house. But now we watch it every year. And even though it's fun to make fun of, at the same time, it's entertaining. It's a good movie, even though there are ridiculous things in it. But there are ridiculous things in it because it was before the genre became a parody of itself, and that's why you got to give it respect. And speaking of which, if I had to give my horror answer for tonight, with the same things that you talked about, would be Scream for me, which I think is
and that
funny
makes sense.
It shows kind of the age difference in us, and
absolutely,
yeah.
And Scream is from somebody who loves the Halloween movies, and is that's kind of cool because you talk about a movie influences a filmmaker who puts together a movie that influences you. So it shows how that sort of influence chain through time can come back and find you. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm wearing Ghostface pajama pants right now, which if
you're wearing Ghostface's pajama pants, I don't know, he might come looking for you.
He might.
Well, yeah, and Scream also had that twist at the beginning of characters you think are going to be around, and it's nope. It's wait, you're on the poster. It's nope. The rules don't matter, and we're going to tell our story. And then it's nobody's safe. And you're like, oh, okay, that's a different feeling. So yeah, Scream is great. All right. Well, to no one's surprise, my next pick is science fiction. So I want to talk about Starship Troopers. I would like to know more because
really,
Yeah.
I'm floored.
I love Starship Troopers, and but I will wrap it in. It makes me look at films that are trying to do satire because of how well it does satire. It makes me look at films on how they're trying to do commentary on things because of how it's commenting on things. So that's the lens I look at it. I mean, obviously I didn't watch it and go, are you pro-fascist, Paul Verhoeven? It's like, no, he's obviously, but he's intermixing the jokes, the humor. It's a hilarious movie. And it's so quotable. Like, there are dozens and dozens of quotes that come out of this movie, which is a high bar for me. But yeah, Starship Troopers, and then, the sequels were utter garbage and didn't go anywhere. But that, for that one moment, and liking some of his other films like RoboCop or, where you have like the media and how he uses the media. And it's in this like early internet era. So it's like, click here to learn more. Like, you're kind of like scrolling through. Like, this whole movie could just be kind of an ad that's playing in the background while you're learning more on FedNet. Like, it's so interesting, and even how it starts, where you have a bit of the time jump where they're on the planet in the first battle, and then the camera guy gets attacked, and then we jump back to like our heroes starting their journey until we catch up with that point. The model work, the effects work, the bugs still hold up today. This was, 97, I think. It was long time ago.
Yes, I remember it was one of a handful of movies when I saw it in a theater that they were actually checking your IDs, and the movie theater I went to see it would not even allow parents to bring kids in. It was so controversial how violent it was at the time. What an innocent era we lived in. But they would not, if you were a parent or if you were older than 17 and you wanted to bring in your 13-year-old, and you're like, it's my little brother, it's your friend, whatever.
They were like, no.
They were standing at the door saying, that is not going to happen. We refuse entry. Yes.
Okay, I did not see it in 1997. I'll just say that. But, this was definitely a blockbuster rental for me.
I think that's such a bold choice. I love that you love it for all of those reasons, because I can tell you it didn't go over quite as well in 97 for those of us in the theater.
Yeah, I could see it becoming more of a cult status.
Yeah.
as on rewatch and over time. I don't think it even did absolutely well. I don't know its box office off the top of my head, but everybody
walked out because it was all hyped up, because it was like, oh, this is a super graphic action movie from the director of RoboCop. And we all went in, we're like, yeah, we're gonna see blood and guts, and then like everybody sat there like, what the hell is happening? And Tristan mentioned Riff Tracks. I saw the Riff Tracks live in the theater.
This is a perfect Riff Tracks movie.
It is one of the funniest Riff Tracks I've ever seen. Mike Nelson cracked a joke at one point where I almost cried. I was laughing so hard. Like, I missed several jokes afterward because I was just laughing so hard. I love that choice. I love that choice.
I can't recall if I've seen it on Riff Tracks. I do.
Small sidebar, heartily encourage it.
The movie Riff Tracks movie that made me almost pass out. I don't know why. It tickled me in the right way. It was the first Transformers movie, and they're doing a joke about the helicopter, and like, it was the first time he transformed like without the instructions, and I don't know why, but I was laughing so hard. He did this like little high-pitched voice, like, I did it, I transformed without my own instructions, and it just, those guys are so good.
Absolute gold. Right, I love that choice, man.
What's your comment on my choice of Paul Verhoeven's Starship Troopers, his sci-fi epic of?
Oh no, I was surprised because I didn't get it the first time I watched it. Like, I just didn't get it. Like, I understood it was satire. I did. I'm not an idiot, but like, as I was watching, I was just like, this is too corny for me. I don't know.
It is very corny.
And I remember saying that to someone, and their response was very much stereotypical. That's because you didn't get it, man. And so it kind of turned me off to it because there were so many Uber fans.
You did not want to know more. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, but I after you say this, I'm definitely going to give it another shot. Like, I'm 100%.
I think you should
do it.
I'm 100% going to give it another shot.
Yeah. And I mean, I can almost quote any line and it'll make me smile. Like, you know, and because it's well acted in parts. You know, it's not Shakespeare, but you know, when you have like, you know, if you disable the enemy's hand, he cannot push a button to drop a nuke on you. And like, that's their logic, and they believe it so fervently that you just have to laugh because it's so ridiculous. Oh,
it's actually I'm curious, because the thing is, I think we should tell the audience to buckle up. This is going to be a longer episode than typical, because we're just.
I was going to say, I haven't even given my second choice yet.
Yeah.
We're halfway. Yeah. We're at the half an hour
So
mark.
we just buckle
might have
up,
to
everybody.
speed
well,
up
you
a
asked
few
why I
of these.
said 5. I said 5 because that's 15, which is that's a lot. That's like 5
That
minutes
is a lot.
per.
That is
for
a
an
lot.
hour. But all that
So,
to say.
so what we can do is we can short shrift Tristan. So Tristan, you have 45 seconds. Go.
Okay, all right. So this is my franchise pick. This is the most Lucasian pick that I have out of all of my all of my films, and this one is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Okay.
From 1989. This one is I don't even know how to say it. Like this is such a perfect adventure film. This could be the perfect adventure film. It's my favorite of the original trilogy. I have a lot of fond memories of this. When I think about this movie, how do I put this? Like, I lost my dad a couple of months ago, and it was a shock to the family. And my dad and I he basically raised me on the Indiana Jones films. And this was the one that we rewatched the most. And for a couple of reasons, you know, like I think it's the perfect adventure film. It has a really great father-son dynamic. And it has not only Harrison Ford, which was my dad's favorite actor, but it also has Sean Connery, who was our favorite Bond and one of our favorite actors. And that was another franchise that my dad and I bonded over, was James Bond, the original Sean Connery films. And so this kind of encapsulates all of that. Like, you know, like Harrison Ford makes me think about my dad. Sean Connery makes me think about my dad. The father-son relationship makes me think about my dad. Indiana Jones, the original trilogy makes me think about my dad. And so there's just so much of this that's how it's impactful to me. Like, that's how it shaped my taste moving forward, because of how much great action and performances and witticisms and everything like that is in it, and also because it makes me think of my dad. So that's one that's like a big chunk of not just my taste but my heart.
I love that.
I can see that for sure.
That's beautiful. And just to share with you, I think that it's beautiful because I too, you know, I went to the movies with my dad growing up, and like, he loved Star Wars. He loved this. It's like, obviously his tastes influenced mine as well. But Indiana Jones movies, that was always my dad's. He adored that series. That made him feel like a kid. Like when I watch Star Wars and I feel like a kid, Indiana Jones did that for my dad. So I love hearing that from you, because that is, and Last Crusade is such a, you know, the thing is, Raiders and Last Crusade, that's like the Star Trek 2 versus Star Trek 6 argument. Whereas like, which one is actually better, but which one do I actually love more? And do I love it because it's better, or do I just love it because I love it?
That is a perfect analogy. Absolutely.
So rare for a series to have that sort of two of them where it's like, you can't discount anybody's choice about which one is the best one. Oh, this was my best one. Yeah, okay, I can see that. You know, whereas usually when you're having the argument, it's always like, this one's the best one of the series. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like, you know, we've heard a lot in a way from Mr. Riddell, just because whenever we bring up, was it a Riddell family favorite, for a lot of those older movies, that's influenced by him. You know, obviously the whole family to a point, but often they're the one who has the final say on what you're getting from Blockbuster. You know, so
yeah, that was one reason why I almost talked about Batman '89. Because, you know, that was a big one that, you know, obviously, you know, I'm a gigantic Batman fan, just like you guys are. Like, you know, like, Darren, you gifted me one of the greatest sets of all time of Batman '89 related. And, you know, John, that's a big part of your identity too. And my dad introduced me to Batman through Michael Keaton's Tim Burton's '89. And so it was hard not to include that one. But I thought Last Crusade was kind of be like, if I had to pick one thing that represented my dad's influence, I think Last Crusade had to have been it.
That's beautiful, man. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Like, seriously, that's a great thing. That's a wonderful thing.
Darren, it kind of, when you said that about Mr. Riddell, about hearing about him a lot and about the Riddell family favorite and everything like that. That's
our
going to
discussions.
be that has been a part of our discussion about his I got to tell him about that before he died, because we've been doing the show for a while. And I told him about how we talk about him. Yeah. Like I told him about how we talk about him and his famous fast forwarding skills.
Cover your eyes, Tristan. Ninja. Don't look.
He was a ninja. Listen. I wish I had his fast forwarding skills. More often than not, it's like, just ignore that part.
Pretend you didn't. Don't tell your mother you heard that. Yeah.
Mute is the fast forward of the simple mind.
Yeah, unless you're watching Megalopolis with your oldest, and you're like, I cover your eyes, but that's embarrassing in a theater. But okay.
All right. Who's up next? Is John up next?
John.
I think it's me.
John is up next.
Well, the thing is, I was going to go in a different direction with one of my top 5, but instead what I'm going to do is, Tristan, you've inspired me, so I'll jump to the one that has the heaviest echo of my own dad. And the thing is, it's because of that connection with him and a Christmas tradition and the fact that it was taped off of TV and the director, I don't know a single thing he's done otherwise. Ronald Neame, I don't even know who that is, right? He directed a musical version of Scrooge starring Albert Finney that I believe was released in 1970. And we watched it. And the thing is, my dad's pause and unpause skills, he had to do it with our VCR had the cord to it. Like, that's how old
the remote VCR was attached. Yeah.
And all you had was play and pause, right? And you just flipped a switch. Yeah. And whenever you did that on the tape, you had this little blur, the static interference. It was like, beep, and it would always have that little sound. My dad was great at it. It was years later that I realized he had accidentally cut out a scene where Scrooge actually went to hell. And I was like, what? It was like seeing the movie for the first time, and I can still sit there and I'm like, this is always where it ended when we watched it when I was growing up. But watching that movie with my dad turned me into, like he was, an aficionado of adaptations of A Christmas Carol. I will go and watch an adaptation of A Christmas Carol, and I will judge it harshly. I will judge it kindly. Depends on my mood. I've seen it on stage a number of times. I saw one adaptation with Frank Langella off Broadway that everybody should have been burned alive for what they did with his origin story, because they made him very, very... I think actually Kelsey Grammer, I think that's the version that he did. And it's like they make him sympathetic because it's like, he's a miser because his dad went to debtor's prison. I'm like, no, that is not Scrooge's origin story. But when I really think about it, there's that connection to my dad. But also, I have a lifetime love of musicals. I have a lifetime love of so many things tied to this that are just, I can look at even the Muppet movie. I can look at how much I love Baz Luhrmann's Moulin Rouge or Romeo and Juliet. And I can look at that or any movie that has music in it. And I'm like, it all goes back to watching this musical so many times as a kid. Every Christmas watching this. I remember sitting in the family room watching it while we were eating one of my dad's favorite meals, which was cream chip beef on toast, which is a delightful treat, ladies and gentlemen. I heavily, heavily encourage it. You just need some beef of a certain kind, some Bisquick, and some buttered bread toasted. It is good stuff. He was in the Marines for a time. It never left him. And so that's why I have a cast iron stomach. But yeah, Scrooge, I'm sorry, I know I've rambled, but that specific edition of Scrooge, I can watch it and I will always cry during it at some point because I remember it's a way to bring it to the surface about, that whole thing. So there you go. That's a tastemaker.
Wow. And I just went to Blockbuster a lot. So
I was hoping that would make the list.
I will say for us, in a kind of a tangent way, we had, and I can't remember if I mentioned this, we had the tape. And it was that's what we called it. It was this Kodak yellow, like 120 tape. And this was our Christmas tape that my parents had taped a series of Christmas specials, some with commercials, thank God, preserved for all time. But we would watch, I've since digitized it onto like several DVDs, but it is still like, it is so ingrained that after a certain one will play, I know what's going to be next. Like I know because the order never changes. It's got Inspector Gadget saves Christmas, Garfield saves Christmas, Ernest saves, everyone's saving Christmas, guys. It's getting saved all over the place. But yeah, it's literally probably has a dozen movies on it, and and it's still grainy. It's not the best quality anymore.
Good.
There's like Huggies commercials and Walmart commercials, and like Salvation Army. All this. This is like when we lived in Fresno, so it's like in the Valley of California in like the late '80s. That's where, and I just love it because that's the one I have the most memory for. So it's not a top 5, but that's made me think of that. That's the Moser family favorite. Every Christmas time we bring out the tape, and my kids have since watched the tape. So
that's awesome.
I love that. You can also find some of that stuff on YouTube. Like they'll have stuff that was recorded off of TV, and it'll still have the commercials and everything.
The Claymation Christmas that we talked about,
with the California raisins.
The California raisins. Yep. It's just,
my dad loved the California
dream.
raisins.
It actually happened.
Yeah. No, kids. There was a commercial that was so popular. What a concept. What a concept.
All right. Well, so for my next one, again, to no one's surprise, well, I'll shake this up a little bit. Because it's one we haven't talked about. Actually, wait, never mind. We talked about both these because we talked about James Cameron. So we covered all of his. So The Abyss, you guys, I give it a 5. We've already talked about it. We've had a whole episode about it. I want to build models of it. But in the vein of its meaningfulness, the way this movie approaches wonder and community, the community of the oil platform workers, like stuck in an impossible situation. They're out of their depth. There's no scientist. There's no, rescue coming. They have to figure it out. And I love that aspect of it. I love how, some of them don't believe that there's underwater creatures that are, coming after them. Coffee's going off the deep end. One of the most amazing performances of Michael Biehn. So yeah, all that. I mean, it didn't do as well in the box office, but for shooting in the water, incredible. For its miniature work, for its score and its baby CGI as it's being birthed, with the pseudopod. Like I've said, we chatted all about this in our episode, but this is the movie that made me want to study film. So if you've seen my senior project at Azusa Pacific, you could tell I watched The Abyss because we got submarines and a bunch of other stuff going on. So I couldn't quite capture Cameron's grace in my limited budget, but I was always proud of my film that we were the first at our school to attempt green screen, miniature work, and a synthesized, I think it was a synthesized score.
Cool.
I felt. So we were very effects heavy, which, is hard to do. Or no, sorry, it wasn't the score. We built a set. We built a pod subset on our little soundstage. So building a set that wasn't like a house or something like that hadn't been done at the school yet. So I think that's awesome. I love that you also put out the qualifier that without Cameron's budget. And I was like, you mean your student project didn't look like The Abyss when you didn't have $300 million to spend? I know. I had to qualify it, but yeah.
Yeah,
but no,
that's awesome, man.
It was fun. And while I didn't continue down, that path, like I've always, I mean, we live in a media rich world, like shooting. Yeah, I still hate vertical video, because of it. So,
I still like, I will see my wife shoot vertical video, and I will physically go up to her and rotate her phone for her. She hates it. And I do it just as a goof now at this point.
You're video splaining.
No, with the Abyss and and Darren, it's you say like, oh well, I didn't go down that path, but I honestly I hate that kind of mentality. And I'm not discounting what you're saying, Darren. What I'm saying is that there's so many people out there who think that because you didn't do a specific thing with your profession, then it's wasted, or you didn't learn anything, which is such BS and is such
no,
an
I don't
American
feel that
mindset. Because that's the thing. Like, think about how much you've done with that.
It's a piece of the journey.
Yeah,
it really
and like
is.
you specifically, like how much you've made and modeled and designed with your own two hands, and how that can be traced back to miniatures from Abyss and other things of that ilk. I'm so glad you brought that up. Even though we talked about it not that long ago, I'm so glad you brought that up specifically.
It's been a while. It was when we started when I joined the podcast. So,
was it really?
It was we did Cameron first.
Was
That's
that
what brought
long
me
ago?
on. Yeah,
no kidding.
It was episode 30. The Abyss 37,
Jeez.
and we're at 200. So it's. I mean, we say a few years ago. We've actually been recording for a long time, guys. It's been a long time.
Maybe it's because it was just released in theaters not that long ago. Maybe that's why
true.
I thought
I did go re-see it.
Yeah, we talked about it recently.
Wow.
Is it back to me? Or is
it is back? No, it's back to you, Tristan. We need number 3 from you.
Number 3, I feel like I need to give my mom some love, because like I talk about my dad a lot on the show, and I just talked about The Last Crusade so this next one, I want to say Anthony Harvey's The Lion in Winter from 1968.
I still have to see that.
This is honestly one of the best written films, period. The dialogue is unmatched with its wit and cadence. I mean, absolutely perfect performances from Peter O'Toole and Katharine Hepburn. And we have a very young Timothy Dalton and Anthony Hopkins in it. And it's based off of the 1966 Broadway play that was written by James Goldman. And the movie is written by James Goldman as well. And this is one of my mother's favorite films. Also, the score is from John Barry, and he won the Academy Award for it. And I am not trying to be hyperbolic here. It is one of the best scores made for a movie. It's phenomenal.
Which ties back to your love of James Bond, because John Barry did a ton of James Bond score too.
There's I think I need to re-listen to that album that I sent you a couple years ago. It was a John Barry album of unreleased music, and it feels like an unreleased Bond film. Like the score is fantastic. But anyway, I was one of the not just because my mother and I bonded over this film, but like she would put in the soundtrack and just crank the music. I mean, the walls would rattle because she would crank the soundtrack of this. She and I actually went to a live play of this show together, because we both love the movie so much. And my senior year, I was this close to directing a production of The Lion in Winter. And I was so, that's one of my biggest regrets in life, is that I wasn't able to make that happen and be a director of The Lion in Winter on stage. But the movie itself, it's so witty. It has so many amazing lines in it. Like, this is a movie that I quote constantly, and I actually send quotes of it to my mother, and she sends it back. But there's one that sticks with me the most. It's from the Prince Geoffrey, and he says, he's like, I know, you know, I know, I know, you know, I know. We know Henry knows, and Henry knows we know it. We're a knowledgeable family. It hits so hard. And one thing that I actually tell my kids, and I'll say to people in my life, one of the lines I quote the most is, "There's no sense asking if the air is good if there's nothing else to breathe." Mm-hmm. It's something I live my life by.
That's awesome.
But if you haven't seen
that's
it,
a good one.
Stop what you're doing and just watch it.
See, can I share something that I think is a memory I've shared with you personally before? But I was in forensics, speech and debate, and had an interpretive piece with a girl who, this was senior year of high school, Washington Area Catholic Forensics League, and we went all the way to national competition with a piece from Lion in Winter. Never seen anything from it. Only did that piece. So hearing about Lion in Winter, I gotta see it. I love hearing this praise about it. Maybe this finally pushes me over the edge decades later to actually see the work outside of the scene from high school that I know so well. So
watch it when you can focus on it and when you can watch it loud.
That's going to be an issue with 3 kids. So we'll see. And a wife who does not respect that I'm watching a movie at the time. But she doesn't listen to the show, so it's okay if I drag her a little bit there. That's fine. That's fine.
All right, John, give us your 4th pick.
You know what? Number 4, this is the thing that sucks, is so far we've remained stuck in the 70s. So why leave the 70s? It was a great decade. I was born in the 70s. So we're going to go ahead with actually something that ties me to my brother, that we had a very close relationship. And I think sort of this period in time is where it sort of is born. I had never seen a Godfather film. And for Christmas, I knew he liked the Godfather films. So I bought him The Godfather Part 2. And he found out I had never seen it. And I was like, no, I've never seen it. And he goes, we're going to sit down. We're going to watch this. And it's easy to say, oh, well, I'm picking this because of the emotional part. But in all honesty, I go back, The Godfather Part 2, for a kid who's just entered high school, it teaches you to sit down and watch a 3+ hour epic, to appreciate the dynamic of Michael and Kay, Fredo and Michael, the whole descent of a person into pure evil, and then what it does to him and leaves him as a husk by the end. The dissolve, like Frankie Pantangeli, like remains one of my favorite film characters of all time. It's a beautifully written film. It's another one of those ones we talked about, Raiders and Last Crusade. The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2. Which one is better? There's no bad choice here. There's a bad choice if you choose Part 3, but there's no bad choice here between Part 1 and Part 2. Like it is, and it tees up that all you have to say is mob movie. And thanks to The Godfather Part 2, I'm like, okay, I'm game. I'll watch it. I've watched so many, the mob genre is like the slasher genre. When it's good, hey, that's great. When it's bad, I'm a little forgiving of it because I just love the genre that we're in. So that's why The Godfather Part 2 is there. I really think that, nobody else has had a decade like Coppola in the 70s, I don't think. Like as a director, you could argue as a producer or anything like that, but the fact that he released The Conversation in the same year, like you look at that, you're like, how is that possible? Like this isn't a board that was like, okay, we got to make the next Marvel movie. This was like just a guy who had this in his brain. He's like, yeah, I just want to make these 2 movies. I'm like, what was in the water, man? Like, how do you pull that off? But The Godfather Part 2, yeah, well, yes. But The Godfather Part 2, man, it's like, it is one of the all-time epic long. It's 3 hours and 10 minutes, I think. Would you cut anything? No, I would not. Not a chance. And it's just like, I would say that very much conditions you as well when you see it at an early age. You're not married to the idea that a movie has to be 90 or 120 minutes. You're ready to sit down, and later in your life, Heat has a running time of more than 3 hours. Yeah, okay, that's fine. As long as it's good, who cares? That sort of thing. So Godfather Part 2.
Yeah. Yes. Recently, we've been watching a lot of long movies, but
not in House of Cosmatos.
No, but that's why we went to Cosmatos.
That's true. That was a foolish palate cleanser.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we talked around episode 44 and 46. We did Godfather and Godfather 2.
Wow,
way back when.
Long time.
There's not much to say about it as a response or a retort. It is what it is. It's just
it's between the brothers, Kay. That's what it is.
That's something that I constantly say, even though this isn't. Is this from Part 2?
Yep. Wait.
Oh, where he says, "Don't ask me about my business, Kay. Don't ever ask me."
Oh no, I think that's from the end of Part 1. Don't ever ask me about. Yeah, I think that's from the end of Part 1 because the whole thing is But my brother and me, like our whole lives, somebody will just drop into the conversation every so often where we're talking about something and we just know the code. It's between the brothers, Kay. It means that stays between us.
All right. Well, this one I saw later, but this is one of my wife's favorites. I was trying to think of a film that we watch all the time, at least every St. Patrick's Day, and that's 1952's The Quiet Man, and John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara.
Solid
and my
choice.
wife's name is Maureen, and she was actually named after actress Maureen O'Hara. So, and it's just, man, 50s, like just a well-told story, but still, action, love, romance, like romancing between these characters. It's the standard. They are at odds, but they, win each other over. You have the pride of John Wayne's character, wanting to stand up for anything, but he's afraid to fight, and it's just, and there's humor, they're courting, and just, it's a different era, but it is such a fun film, and gosh, it's gorgeous Technicolor, like it looks is beautiful, all of the Irishness.
I feel so ashamed because this is now the second movie in this recording where I haven't seen it.
Oh, definitely.
I've been told for many, many years to see The Quiet Man, and I've never seen it. And I think that I'm going to see if I can download it so when the hurricane shows up, I can occupy the time by watching The Quiet Man and Lion in Winter, as long as the battery holds out.
There you go. Yeah, no, we literally do watch it every year. Some corned beef and cabbage and The Quiet Man. That's our St. Patrick's Day evening.
You got me with watching the movie. I am of Irish heritage, and corned beef and cabbage, I got to be honest with you. No, I'm good. That's okay. So,
all right. Well, Tristan, you have to also jump to the 1950s as per our rules. No, I'm just kidding. Those aren't the rules.
I don't think I can jump to the 50s, but I'll jump to something that is the most recent on my list.
Okay.
And that is from 2005. And that is The Fountain.
What, 15 years old?
Wow.
By Darren Aronofsky.
Wow.
I'm sorry, 2006, not 2005. 2006. And this movie had very much mixed reviews, and it was considered a box office bomb because it was $35 million budget and it only made $16.5 million. And it was originally supposed to be $70 million budget, starring Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett, but Pitt pulled out, and Warner Brothers shut it down. And so he ended up like rewriting it to get it down to 35 million. And he got Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz. And this one big reason why this movie is so important to me is because this is probably one of the most soulful movies that I've ever seen. And it's definitely one of the most beautiful. And it has a score from Clint Mansell, which is, in the truest form of the word, art. And this was the first movie that I saw with my now wife in the movie theater. And so this movie has always been very special to us, not just because it was the first one we saw together in the movie theater, but because it very much connected us. And it got us, it's so hard to describe, but the love that Hugh Jackman's character and Rachel Weisz's character have for each other goes beyond time, goes beyond space, and these themes of love eternal, life eternal, and things of that nature is really just, it really connected to us in that time in our lives. And it's such an emotional movie. There was a time when we would rewatch it all the time and we would feel it. And we haven't watched it for years because it is such an emotionally exhausting experience. And I don't mean that in a bad way, like when you're watching like Schindler's List or something like that. Like this is a movie that is emotionally exhausting because you get invested so easily into it. And if you don't watch the movie, listen to the score, because the score will make you weep on its own. And that's why this movie is there, because I aspire to make something as beautiful as this movie.
That's awesome. I remember watching that on video with my wife, and I remember adoring it. It's a fantastic film. It's absolutely a lost gem to time. And Aronofsky has knocked out some real bangers in his career. But The Fountain, like if you're like, oh, you can only keep one Aronofsky movie. I remember seeing Pi on video in the 90s and being like, wow, this guy is awesome. And then, seeing other stuff and like eventually, you see Requiem for a Dream and everybody talks about that one. But honestly, if you're like, you can only keep one Aronofsky movie, The Fountain's the one I'm keeping for all the reasons you said. Like it is, I want Hugh Jackman making movies like that instead of Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm dead serious.
There's room for Deadpool and Wolverine.
Stop with your there's room for this and that sort of thing. Hugh Jackman, I think, is an incredible actor who has unfortunately wound up pigeonholed by his success in the X-Men with an expectation that is not fair of him. If that makes sense. Yeah, basically. So I haven't seen Deadpool 3 yet, so whatever. Spoil away though. That's a great choice. I love that choice. Here's my question for you, sort of like going back to before, is have you ever encountered something like it since? Like how did it change your taste, your anything?
No. Nothing has come close to this. Nothing. Okay. Not a single thing has come close to where the cinematography, the pacing, the acting, the writing, did I say editing? The music all put together is perfect. It's just luminescent.
Awesome.
In its effect.
Cool. Very cool.
All right. Back to you, John. For number 5, we might go to 6, but we'll at least go to 5.
I know we won't go to 6. That's fine. But we wind up jumping because Star Wars sets me up for liking a certain sort of thing with action movies and heroic adventures and stuff like that. Halloween puts me in for slasher movies and everything. Scrooge sets me up for musicals and Ebenezer Scrooge movies and everything. Godfather Part 2, we have the epic and the mob movie and everything like that. I love those sorts of things. We jump forward and it's a tie. It's so tough. Same director, 2 years apart. Reservoir Dogs, but it could also be Pulp Fiction because those movies come out and I can tell you that they completely shifted what I thought movies were capable of and what made a good movie. And I could actually make the argument that Tarantino's refusal to adhere to linear storytelling teased me up to love Nolan later. And Nolan's probably my favorite active director right now. And Tarantino immediately tees you up to understand and appreciate. I don't have to tell you A to B to C. I can jump around. Even Reservoir Dogs does that. You flashback nested within this, nested within that. And then Pulp Fiction comes along. I'll go ahead and I'll lock in to Pulp Fiction because I saw Reservoir Dogs and I loved it on video. And Pulp Fiction, I saw it in the movie theater and I saw it so many times in the movie theater that my girlfriend at the time, when I said, oh, let's just go see Pulp Fiction, her reaction was, again? Do we have to see this again? I was like, what else is out? Right? Like that sort of thing. And who knows what else was out. But Tarantino also winds up shifting my tastes in such a way that I get an appreciation of and my own admiration for and then obsession over exploitation movies where I'm suddenly like, and I love True Romance and I love his later movies and I love all that stuff and he spurs all of this sort of thing on, but I can trace it to seeing Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction and what he indulges there and then Jackie Brown, everything later, to then later in that same decade, not ironically going and being like, oh, I love Shaft or I love Superfly or something like that. I see everything that influenced this director. And I'm like, yes, I love what he's doing. And I see what it comes from. So I'll go ahead. I'll lock in. You know what? I'll pick number 5 as Pulp Fiction because Reservoir Dogs is a movie that you love. But Pulp Fiction is a movie that I saw, I think it was 5 times in the movie theater. And because I walked out of that movie, I was like, wow, I want more of that. I want more of that for decades and decades afterwards. So I'll say Pulp Fiction.
Hey, you almost snuck in a 6th one there. I saw what you were doing. You're like, well, if I had to pick, it's in between these two that I'm going to talk about equally for the next 3 minutes. But
there you go.
No, Pulp Fiction is transcendent. I mean, there's that's one of those movies where it's like you live in a post Pulp Fiction world.
It's true.
I truly feel like the influence that has had on our pop culture, on our movie culture is indelible. And it's just like, for all the reasons that you said, like the non-narrative storytelling, where you still have a John Travolta scene after he got shot and after he died, like he still pops up again, like it's just being able to go back and forth, and it's not confusing. You're just kind of go, oh, it's just, it won the Palme d'Or for a reason, when the Palme d'Or really meant something. And yeah, it's just phenomenal choice.
And additionally, it's the movie that, let's be honest, even though he was in other stuff and there's other stuff he was in that was good and it was great, Sam Jackson, after this movie, you live in a pre and a post Sam Jackson world. Like he wrote his own bill after this. He chose what he wanted to do. He's in Jurassic Park the year before this. Nobody, like, when you talk about Jurassic Park, oh yeah, Sam Jackson's really good in that. But if I say Sam Jackson and you're, of a certain age, you're like, oh, Pulp Fiction. That's the first thing you think of. And then everything afterward. Pulp Fiction, in all honesty, eventually gets him in Star Wars too, right? Like he's that big after this movie. And it's like, I still will go back to him in that final moment, where he's like, the truth is, Ringo, you're the weak and I'm the tyranny of evil men. But I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd. I quote, walking along with my wife, I'm like, Jules, you give this Nimrod $1,500, I'm going to shoot him on principle. Like, man.
You have said the shepherd line quite a few times to me in our friendship.
I love that line. So it is one of the perfect lines of dialogue ever delivered. Like Sam Jackson, I can't see anybody else delivering that line the same way. Like that is, I don't know how you're on set and you don't look at that and you're like, wow, Martin Landau's going to win Best Supporting Actor. That is totally going to be fair and makes sense. But hey, that's just me. So
that's just us. But hey, that's why we have a podcast. We can say what we want to say.
There you go.
All right. Rounding out the fifth choice. To no one's surprise, it's back to Cameron. I know we've already talked about him, but Aliens. My gosh, this movie, I rewatched it recently. And I've often, when I'm just kind of chilling, I'll put on, there's a lot of people on YouTube nowadays who will like review things or watch things for the first time that are more our or slightly younger generation. And it's really fun because, there's definitely people who have not seen these movies or just never got exposed to them. And, if nothing else, the fact that this movie was a sequel to like one of the greatest like horror period movies and was able to pivot it into another genre. Not like we're going to tell another horror story. Oh, there's more aliens. It's plural this time. There's going to be many of them. And thus it's the same thing. Like this is still in the era when like sequels were just the same thing. Like Jaws 2. I'm sorry, guys. But Jaws 2 is just like Jaws, but a little bit different. Like it is.
Jaws 2 sucks.
I said it. Jaws 2 is not that great. So, but this was like it. And it's on the list because it gives Darren's rules for successful sequels. And the rule is you must answer a question posed in the first film, or maybe not stated, but that came from the first film. And then Aliens, the question is, well, who lays the eggs? And not that became, and then James Cameron thought of that and, all was born. But that is the heart of where this goes. Not to mention the trial that Sigourney, that Ripley goes through, of motherhood, of found family, of fighting your fears. Like she went through a traumatic experience in the first movie and then chooses to go back to help others and face the monster, the literal monsters under her bed. The amazing, model work, miniature work. I watched it over and over on a clip when they're panning in the landing bay. And it's obvious it's a matte painting for like 90% of the shot until it passes like a chain hung from the ceiling. And now we're in the live video, but it is so smooth that I'm like, wait, where was the line? Watch it again. Wait, was it there? Watch it again. This movie, it's from 86. And yeah, the queen alien, the puppet of all puppets, that unfortunately, nowadays would be CGI. There's no way they would even attempt to do what they did with that puppet. And yeah, I mean, we can go back to the episode where we talked all about it, but at its core, like I said, it's capturing that lightning again, not by trying to reinvent the wheel, but pivoting into another genre. And if I probably thought about it, I could probably come up with other examples of sequels that pivoted, but none like Alien. Like that was the first one to truly do it and set the stone.
Well, yeah, like you're saying, it moves it into an entirely different genre.
Right.
Even when things are, even when Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, but Empire Strikes Back is still like, it's a Star Wars movie. It's clearly a Star Wars movie. It follows the rules of Star Wars that were set out before. Whereas Aliens is like, the only thing we're really keeping is the main character and the design of the alien and any of the rules about chest bursters and eggs. Right. And the rest, this is a commentary on Vietnam because I didn't like what they did with Rambo First Blood Part 2. So there you go.
Yeah, and it's like, how do we ratchet up the stakes? It's like, oh, well, you were truckers in space finding one alien. What if you were literal combat Marines with total badasses? We've got knives, we got guns, we got sharp sticks, and they still get the floor wiped with them. And you're just like, oh, it's game over. It's game over.
And also staying true to the idea of the fact that you can't trust the corporation.
Right. The hubris of like, oh, we're in control. It's like, no, you've never been in control of this situation.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's and to its nuance. Like, I love the little bit of Ripley not trusting Bishop because of her experience with Ash and how that grows towards the end. She trusts him. Like, that's character growth. Ripley has massive character growth in this movie, which for a horror final girl, which is like the smallest of boxes I would put Ripley in, but I'm not going to. But like, that doesn't happen unless it's a well-told story. So yes, Aliens, I love it.
Great choice. All right, Tristan, bring us home.
All right. This one is just for me. This one, it doesn't have a connection with anybody else in my family, my wife, or like aunt, uncle, cousins, no one. But this one is just for me because I became obsessed with this movie when I found it, and I was quoting it constantly. I was writing about it in my journal. I was writing quotes about it in my journal and like on my papers at school, and I thought I was edgy because I could quote back the movie almost verbatim, and it was one of my favorite movies of all time, and it was Neil Jordan's Interview with a Vampire from 1994. I just got the side eye from John, and
which grew into a look of complete disdain, which I reserve for special occasions in my conversations with Tristan.
I love that this is going to be my final one that I talk about. I love that you're disgusted in my 5 pick.
Very much.
This, of course, is based off of Anne Rice's novel that came out in '76, same name, and it's starring Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt and Kirsten Dunst. And this is this movie. Like, I love quotable movies, and this one has some of my favorite quotes and some of my favorite moments. Just the fact that this movie has Tom Cruise picking up a corpse, dancing with it, and singing to it that's just mind blowing on his face. I absolutely love that exists on film today. And it's there's one line that that's about this is my favorite vampire movie of all time. And there's this one line in it that I feel like perfectly encapsulates vampirism in cinema. And it's from Tom Cruise's Lestat, where he says, he's like, God kills indiscriminately, and so shall we. For no creatures under God are as we are, none so like him as ourselves. And I think that's such a well-written line. And I love that Anne Rice was able to write the screenplay. And she herself hated the casting of Tom Cruise. She ranted about it. She went on interviews. She said, she's like, I can't believe this is happening. This is disgusting. He can't do it. And then when the movie was finally done and she saw it, she's like, oh, I was 100% wrong. I like that Tom Cruise can do Lestat. He embodied Lestat. And the scene where they have a prostitute in their room, and Lestat is trying to get Louis to admit that he's a vampire and that he needs to kill people to survive. He's trying, like, it is a harrowing scene. It's bone chilling in how grotesque Lestat is and how much he disregards human life. And it's so apparent, and it's provocative, it's disgusting, it's vulgar, but it's you can't look away. And that's one of the reasons. And also Elliot Goldenthal's score, I think, really is a perfect companion to this. And I think that's one big thing I've noticed, is that movies with great scores is something that I have picked tonight, definitely. So that's my number 5 in no particular order.
Okay.
I haven't seen it, so I can't quote.
The thing is, I'm not going to throw shade the way you threw shade on me.
You love
for
it, and you have
Star
a
Wars.
reason for love.
Yeah, no. I'm not dismissive the way Tristan is, but I would just say that again, like being the old man, I'm like, I remember seeing that in the theater. And the toughest thing about that movie is, I agree with you, there are things that are great. I love Elliot Goldenthal's score. It's a hell of a lot better than his Batman Forever score, I can tell you that, or his Batman and Robin score. But like, I can remember being in the theater and certain moments being like, yes, that is the spirit of the book right there. And then other moments going, yeah, no, not really. And I think that is the burden that's always had with me, is I love the book. Vampire Lestat's a better book, but I love the book. And then you can't help but go in and you're just like, meh. And I got to be honest that Kirsten Dunst at the time, I was like, not the right casting call. I appreciate everything she pulls off as a young actress. I appreciate the changes that they made, everything like that. I respect the choice. I just, I think it's fascinating because of the fact that, like, it's one of those movies where I hated it at first, then I loved it, then I liked it. Like, I go through this phase with it. But the one thing I can never forgive it for, ever, is having a cover of Sympathy for the Devil by Guns N' Roses, when that song doesn't need a cover, and you could have just used the Stones. So it's like, I don't get it. So there you go.
Well, there you go.
There we go, indeed. Well, that was an amazing journey through over a dozen films, only 4 of which we've talked about here on Houselights. So now is the time, listener, to go through that back catalog, pick out your favorite 5, get those numbers up on our viewer count. But no, I knew tonight would be a fun night of just talking about movies we love. And that's what we do every week here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.